Uncle Sam's Alaska looms into the limelight of current events as a possible haven for many of the unfortunate peoples who have been driven from their native lands by the dictates of tyranny and the horrors of war. The usual approach to this land of promise is by way of the so-called Inside Passage, a remarkable saltwater route extending from Seattle to Skagway through a network of well-protected channels, along the shores of which are many good harbors, beginning with that of Ketchikan, into which we now sail. Ketchikan is about 750 miles from Seattle, and it is the first port of call for ships sailing from Seattle to Alaska along the Inside Passage route. Although gold mining played an important part in the early development of Alaska, fish is now king, and it is said that this silver from the sea has yielded almost 3 times the value of Alaska's gold during the last 25 years. The canned salmon pack in the immediate vicinity of Ketchikan is valued at $5 million annually, thereby substantiating the claim that more salmon is packed at Ketchikan than in any other city in the world. Aside from the fishing industry, logging and lumber milling are of some importance, as evidenced by the wooden buildings and the heavy wooden planking which covers the streets. The climate here is mild. In fact, the winters of southeastern Alaska are as mild as those of Maryland or Virginia, and this should dispel the erroneous impression that most people seem to have about all of Alaska being a land of perpetual ice and snow. While it's true that snow may be seen on the mountain peaks through all of the seasons, it does not necessarily affect the mild temperatures in the valleys below. A few miles from the town of Ketchikan, there is an Indian village where the art of totem pole carving is perpetuated and preserved. Among the Indians of the Northwest is the belief that each tribal group has a particular relationship with some animal, plant, or natural phenomenon, which is called by its Indian name, totem. The grotesque symbols carved on these totem poles are the emblems of families or clans, and very often a tribal epic may be symbolized in these crude carvings. The carver of a totem pole was once considered a very important personage among the Indians, and for carving a pole such as this, he often received as many as 200 or 300 blankets. In addition to this, other gifts were given to him by his fellow tribesmen, who were inclined to revere him as a miracle man. Alaska is one of the few places left in the world where one may still travel on ocean liners in perfect comfort and safety. The passenger ships that ply these picturesque lanes of travel are comparable with the world's best, and during the summer season there is hardly a mile in the whole journey where the waterways throughout the Inside Passage become rough enough to upset even a canoe. Along the way we pass tiny islands, which are really mountain peaks, jutting out above the water, providing an acre or two of fertile soil. The United States Coast and Geodetic Survey boats continually sail these waters, examining and charting the channels so that the ships can take the safest courses. They also make reports on weather conditions and issue publications relating to these waters as guides to navigation. About 1,600 miles from Seattle lies the quaint little port of Cordova, center of an extensive salmon, clam, crab, and shrimp fishing area. The catching, packing, and marketing of seafoods is Cordova's staunchest industry, and 9 large canneries operate in this vicinity. Incidentally, in 1867, the United States paid Russia $7,200,000 for Alaska. And in recent years, the average annual revenue from the salmon pack alone is about $36 million. In the shadow of the snow-covered peaks of Cordova, we behold one of Alaska's unique contrasts. Children in bathing suits, enjoying the warmth of a summer sun and the thrill of an invigorating swim in Lake Eyak, Cordova's popular resort, where winter and summer hobnob together from June until September. The temperature of the water here is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Far beneath the snow line in Nirvana Park, we are convinced that Alaska's foliage grows green and effulgent during the summer months. One of the unique features of this park is the knotty tree trunks, which have been trained by a secret process to produce ball-like joints, which add an exotic or freak picturesqueness to the park. And here we meet a couple of obliging Indian boys who consent to pose for us. It is generally believed that Eskimos dominate the population of Alaska, but this is erroneous, as there are not more than 15,000 Eskimos in the entire territory, and the majority of them live within the Arctic Circle. Perhaps the progress of the Alaskan Indians has reached its greatest height on Annette Island, about 15 miles south of Ketchikan, where about 500 Indians operate one of the most progressive salmon canneries in Alaska. Metlakatla, the port of Annette Island into which we are now sailing, is a cooperative village founded over 50 years ago by Pastor William Duncan, who came from British Columbia with a number of Indians and settled on this island. The Indians, under Pastor Duncan's tutelage, became devout Christians, and their descendants who greet us today are fine examples of an enlightened people, often regarded as the most progressive Indians in North America. Even airplanes are included among their material possessions. Actual ownership of Metlakatla's canneries and fishing rights are vested in the Indians and administered in their behalf by the United States Bureau of Indian Affairs. There are only 3 or 4 white people on the island, and there are no automobiles. Consequently, no streets are necessary, and boardwalks provide a convenient medium for pedestrian traffic. The town has a municipal hydroelectric plant which furnishes electricity for light and power to everyone without charge. The water system is also owned by the town, and every inhabitant is furnished with free water. In memory of the good Pastor Duncan, who founded this unique community, one of the largest churches in Alaska has been erected. At Metlakatla, the seeds of Christianity have borne fruit, helping 500 Indians to find peace and good living under the stars and stripes. One of the most picturesque ports of call along the Inside Passage is Petersburg, a quaint little fishing village originally settled by Norwegians. Although the majority of Petersburg's 1,000 or more inhabitants depend upon the fishing industry for a livelihood, no small amount of revenue is obtained from fur farming. And so it goes in Alaska, the land of promise, where a mere 60,000 inhabitants are trying to develop a territory that is ample in size to take care of more than 1 million people who would seek their fortunes under the stars and stripes on the last frontier of Uncle Sam.